Hi, folks. I thought I would do a little bit of a report out on the fast that I just finished with because it had some interesting features to it. It's the kind of thing that I'm not going to probably share on a lot of the forums that I'm in because there's so many people who are doing fasting who really haven't read what they need to read before they fast. But I thought I would post it here for people who are interested and want to have the longer conversation. There are some things that if I were to just write them down, people would, if people read it fast, they wouldn't study it properly and they could misinterpret or mis-extrapolate information. And that gets important when we're dealing with fasting because there are some things you can improvise on, but some things that are just, biological law and we can't do anything about. And so I try to be really rigorous in knowing kind of how things work, and then from there listening to my body and seeing what it needs to do kind of within those. I don't want to call them constructs because they're not constructed, they're just, laws of nature kind of thing. So there's nothing fancy about this, and I'm using LibreOffice, which is kind of a shit show. So next time I'll have cuter slides, but I'd already made these, and apparently there's no way to like change the template in Libre once you've, made your content. So, um, but I'll also show you how I am tracking. It may not be useful to you, but it might give you some ideas on how you might want to track. I do think tracking is really valuable. There certainly is a point where tracking gets to be sort of its own god, and you don't want to get to that point. But certainly when we're newer at this and we're trying to understand what our natural habits are versus, do I naturally intermittently fast 12 hours a day? Or if I absolutely don't do that without tracking. Um, then what does it look like for me to track that so that I can keep up with it and say, oh, well, yeah, I can push my eating off another hour or two so that I can get more benefit from autophagy. Um, so this week's fast, there were a few important differences than prior fasts that I've been in. I've been in fast for about 6 weeks. It was a pretty organic process how I joined the fasting lifestyle. Um, but this week I was definitely healing from an injury. There was a snowstorm recently. I fell at the end of that, slippery things and such. And the whole left side of my body was banged up pretty good. I did not break anything, thankfully. I was frankly really surprised that I didn't, given the fall. Very thankful that I did not, but I am healing from an injury. I did ask my dry fasting communities, should I go straight back into a fast and try to heal this up? The consensus was definite no. I don't know if those people knew what they were talking about or not, but it felt like maybe the right answer for that time for me. So I did DMSO instead, which has done amazing, amazing healing work on me since then, which I'm very thankful about. So, but I had just come out of a fast at that time, and that's why I wondered, well, should I go back in? Because when you have an illness kind of pop up right after a fast, it can be very, very helpful to go back into the fast to clear that illness, and then come out of the fast once you're stable. The other thing is I didn't have a plan to fast at that time, or at this time rather. I had no intention of fasting the rest of the month. I ended up in very organically again, in a fast very naturally, at the beginning of my cycle, which is the second time that that's happened. And so I didn't really plan it, and it was a pretty long fast. It was a pretty solid 5 days. And so I really didn't plan on doing any more fasting after that for kind of the rest of the month. Although I've put into place my intermittent fasting, so I am tracking, as I say, and I do make sure I think every day but 2 days I've fasted at least 12 hours of the day. Um, so this was a surprise to me as much as it would be to anybody. But my body kind of didn't want a lot of food for a couple of days, and then it wanted quite a lot of food one day, and I was like, what in the world is going on? I did 2,300 calories and, it wasn't moving. It was just 2,300 calories. But then the next day I wasn't hungry. And then I got sort of a hit for some protein, and I had some leftover fish, and so I ate that. But that's all I ate that day, and didn't want or need anything else. And then have fasted the following 2 days. And so altogether, because of how it has ended up behaving in my body to do that process, I'm calling it a 3-day fast or 2.5-day fast. Because the better part of 3 days I've been fasting. And more importantly, I like to be very kosher about measuring that kind of thing, but the way that it has behaved in my body has been just like a 3-day dry fast. So that's why I'm kind of calling that biologically. That's kind of how it worked. The third thing I would note here is that I did not have any thyroid support on this. If you've watched my other videos about fasting, you know that I need some thyroid support to do this effectively, to do it the most safely, in order to have the kind of results that other people are having. I need some thyroid support to do that. I have tried and tried and tried and tried to order some T3, which is what I need at this point. But the place I'm ordering it from is so damn disorganized that it's just going to take some time to get it if they ever even do it. Um, so I don't have that support yet. So I've watched very carefully. I've tracked my body temperature very carefully. In prior fasts, my body temperature went way down. This time it didn't, and I'll say more about that in a minute. But importantly, I didn't have that thyroid support. If you whether regardless of what your numbers look like on your labs, because mine look perfectly fine. But I know, I mean, I've had thyroid disorder since I was 17, and no one will diagnose it for me. So, whether you're diagnosed or not, if you know that you have thyroid disorder, I would certainly recommend the Dry Fasting Club as a resource to analyze that, get into safe fasting practices for yourself. It's not a dogmatic organization. If they think you can't dry fast safely, they'll say that. They have protocols for how to handle it if you need different kinds of hormonal support. And they are not shy about saying do thyroid support and 3-day water fast or whatever if dry fasting is not for you yet, if your body's not strong enough to do it. So here we go. I did see a large improvement in body temperature. And when I say large, I mean in prior fasts, I was down to like 92.9 at one point, and went all the way up to about 96.5. My usual temperature is about 97 and a half. So when I get into the 97s, things get exciting. But the thing about dry fasting is that you really need your body temperature to go up because that heat is the fuel. It's kind of like having a fever, burns up germs and stuff. You need that fuel, you need that heat in order to do what the fast is really there to do. And I have not had that heat yet. But this time I got all the way up to 97.8. I've stayed in the 97s the entire time, like not at the border of 97, but like legit 97s. Except for like one time I was down at 95.9, but only for a little while. It's important to mention here that my blood pressure always stays in a good place. Um, so that part is not concerning, but this time my ability to hold my temperature, even when I was doing mild, just housebound activity, was really good. It was really stable. So that's a really big thing. Also, the cortisol stayed in a very pleasant range. A lot of people think that they're having like, a high or all this energy or something is how they characterize it in their fast. What's really happening is that they're not used to getting cortisol hits in their body, and they've never taken prednisone. And so they don't know that it's an artificial high. It's not a generally healthy high, but if you are healthy and your adrenal gland is not completely trashed, you can handle that higher level of cortisol release for the time that you need it in order to get kind of some of this autophagy work done in the dry fast. For somebody like me who does have adrenal disorder, it's not very good or safe to stay in that range. And it's not very sustainable. So I was thrilled and very surprised that the way that I did this fast, my cortisol stayed in a pretty pleasant range. I mean, I went up for, 12 or 18 hours, but not terrible. And there was only one night where I got 5 hours of sleep. Often on fasts, particularly dry fasts, you get less and less and less sleep every night because that cortisol is so active. Mine was not. And yet my ketones were very high after, a day or so. So my ketosis was in a really good space. My autophagy was in a really good space. And my basal temperature was in a really good space, all without the cortisol having to deplete me, which is probably why I feel good now. Whereas after other dry fasts, I've been immunity wise and intestinally, I have felt a lot better, but I've found like no dopamine hits hit me for like a month. I feel kind of blah after them. Um, so some of the weird things about this fast was I ate one time. I ate that fish, as I told you, after I don't know, 17 hours or something. I ate some fish, it's about 250 calories. And then I just was good and I just didn't need anything else. And that began the bigger fast. Um, and also, like, my body behaved as though it was in full dry fast, like from the clock. I mean, I take my ketone temperature, so to speak, every couple of hours. And my ketones were always in the 30s. This is on my breath meter, which is about a 3 on your urine meter. And went up to 99. It only goes to 99. So which is kind of your top level of your urine test, um, but more reliable. Um, so it went to 99 like this morning. And so it was, and I'd only been, in the post fish fasting for about a day at that point. So it was very much on track, and did a lot of work. And I could tell, I mean, this morning I felt a little kind of dry and seized up. I did have a little bit of water at that point. I've had some water throughout because I didn't really know if I was fasting or not, um, or kind of how much I should fast. And since I have been healing up this injury and the injury needs water the DMSO needs water to work on the tendon, I made sure and took 2 baths a day with charcoal and Epsom salt. And so my electrolytes have stayed good, even though I've had some water and there's been water, I've had contact with water. The whole time, which is very unusual. I usually do a hard dry fast, meaning that I don't have any contact with water. The other thing is my MCT oil came in the mail, and I studied up on that and how to use that, and found out how to do it. And I took half a teaspoon to see if my stomach was okay with that. It was totally fine. And so I took another teaspoon, did totally fine with that. Today I took a teaspoon. So that was yesterday. Today I took a teaspoon. I was feeling kind of run down. The teaspoon didn't quite do the job, so I took another half teaspoon, and that did make me feel better and gave me enough brain clarity. I was I was on the edge of ending the fast around then, around 3 in the afternoon, and it gave me enough brain clarity to kind of check in with my body effectively and say, okay, if I was starting to get some discomfort in this shoulder, which is not the injured one, but I thought, okay, if I'm still having that in a couple of hours and I was feeling kind of, I don't know, it just felt like it was time to stop. And since I am injured, I don't want to overdo what I asked my body to go into acute stress to do for me right now because it needs to focus on my shoulder. So I said, okay, I'm going to take this MCT oil, and if I'm still feeling poorly in a couple of hours, then I'll end the fast. I decided to go to the store in the meantime, and because I wanted to make sure I had everything for tomorrow, if I ended it tomorrow, and got home and really felt like it was time to stop. And so I've ended the fast now. So The other thing is, looks like I don't have a timer on this. I'm going to end this here because Zoom has a new thing where like it only lets you do 15 minutes or something for, oh wait, no, maybe that's YouTube. No, it is Zoom. It's like an upload problem. It doesn't let you do it over 15 minutes. So I'm going to end this here and then I'm going to show you how I track it on the other side. And if you're interested in that, then you can watch that video. And if you're not, then you don't have to. So I will see you there. And no, I don't have any thumbnail there. I just pointed there.